And tonight we want to minister from 2 Kings chapter 7. I'm going to read 9 verses. Verse 1, Then Elisha said, Hear ye the word of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord, Tomorrow about this time shall a measure of fine flour be sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel in the gate of Samaria. Then the Lord on whose hand the king leaned answered the man of God and said, Behold, if the Lord would make windows in heaven, might this thing be? And he said, Behold, thou shalt see it with thine eyes, but shalt not eat thereof. And there were 4 leprous men at the entering of the gate, and they said one to another, Why sit we here until we die? What a question. If we say, we will enter into the city, then the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. And if we sit here, we die also. Now therefore come, let us fall unto the host of the Syrians. If they save us alive, we shall live, and if they kill us, we shall but die. And they rose up at the twilight to go unto the camp of the Syrians. And when they were come to the uttermost part of the camp of Syria, behold, there was no man there. For the Lord had made the host of the Syrians to hear a noise of chariots and a noise of horses, even the noise of a great host. And they said one to another, Lo, the king of Israel hath hired against us the kings of the Hittites and the kings of the Egyptians to come upon us. Wherefore they arose and fled in the twilight and left their tents and their horses and their asses, even the camp as it was, and fled for their life. Wow. And when these lepers came to the uttermost part of the camp, they went into the tent and did eat and drink and carried thence silver and gold and raiment and went and hid it, and came again and entered into another tent, carried thence also and went and hid it. They said one to another, We do not well. This day is the day of good tidings, and we hold our peace. If we tarry till the morning light, some mischief will come upon us. And now therefore come, that we may go and tell the king's household. I want to talk to you the next few moments about I can't be satisfied. I can't be satisfied. And there's a churning in the spirit. And there's a churning in our hearts of hunger and thirst. And I can't be satisfied. It's, there's a danger of the poverty of satisfaction. Complacency is the enemy of the soul. Spiritual satisfaction can lead us to a place of spiritual poverty. Our own spiritual complacency keeps men from striving toward the great places of the kingdom of God. A spiritual satisfaction leads to a spiritual paralysis. And our soul becomes useless in the sense of we just become complacent and satisfied in our walk. Satisfaction spiritually is a vice that must be fought against every single day of our lives, that we do not fall into a place of satisfaction or complacency. Abraham Lincoln said, Failure is not a crime, but low aim is. An anonymous writer said, Indifference never wrote great works, nor thought out striking inventions, nor reared the solemn architecture that awes the soul, nor breathed sublime music, nor painted glorious pictures, nor undertook heroic giving. All of these things were born out of great zeal and were done with much heart. J.P. said, Nothing, he said, for preserving the body like having no heart. There has to be a refusal in the heart to allow life to stuff you into a place of complacency and a place of being of apathy and existing in that place. There's something that has to be created in us that says, I refuse to be complacent. See, there's things that overwhelm people. Insurmountable odds, overwhelming losses, or being entrapped in the past, or even a fear of failure in the future. See, contentment with earthly goods is the mark of a saint. Contentment with our spiritual state is a mark of inward blindness. I don't want to fall into a place where my life is is complacent. Look what Paul said. Philippians 3. Brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forth unto those things which are before, I press toward the mark of the prize, or for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. Pressing forward, not giving up, not stopping, not being complacent in where we are with God. No, spiritual growth never comes from some sort of a form of sacrifice, or a form of worship, or a form of godliness. No, none of those things will bring you to a place in God where He wants. There's got to be a driving force that says, I can't be satisfied. I must not be satisfied. Psalm 42, verse 2, it says, my soul thirsteth for God, for the living God. When shall I come and appear before God? Psalm 63, David's writing, he says, O God, thou art my God, early will I seek thee, my soul thirsteth for thee. My flesh longeth for thee in a dry and thirsty land where no water is, to see the power and thy glory, so as I have seen thee in the sanctuary. There's something about how David's writing, and he says, I refuse to be satisfied. I just can't allow myself to fall into the trap. The cries from the Psalms are nothing more than the echoes of life. They are true to life because they're drawn from the stuff that life is made of. Things like hope and fear, love and hate, jubilation and frustration, faith and anxiety, joy and despair. We find the writers of Psalms not only experiencing the varied emotions of life, but also in different places of life. Things that it happens on a regular basis no matter who you are, whether you're a Christian or whether you're not a Christian, whether you're successful or not successful, life is going to happen to you. And you have to make up your mind, I refuse to be complacent. I refuse to be satisfied. I just can't fall into that trap. See, all of our struggles and all of our victories should have one common purpose, and that is to create a hunger inside of us like we've never had before. God's greatest were those who had a longing for Him, where it consumed them. It propelled them onward, upward, to heights that are not the average. It's not the status quo. What the average did see, their spiritual eyes said, no, I refuse to be average. I refuse to be the status quo. I'm going to a level in God that I haven't been. Let me tell you, there's a hunger deep inside that says, no, I refuse to be ordinary. I've been reading of late of some of the pioneers of the 20th century, the beginning of and throughout the early years of the 20th century, and the great renewal and revival that happened, the apostolic message being renewed, and I read about those pioneers, and I see their dedication and commitment, and in most cases they took off one night from having church. And I read how from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock in the evening they were preaching. And different times on Sunday the church would empty and fill 3 times just to have church. And I see the desire and the hunger for a move of God. I don't know about you, but there's something down inside that says, I refuse to be satisfied. I refuse to be satisfied. You can see some principles from the story that I've read to you from 2 Kings. Notice first the setting of the text, the area of the text is quite a morbid story, actually. There came a time in Israel's history when Ben-Hadad, who is the king of Syria, he had surrounded Samaria and was intent on conquering it. And you can read about that in the preceding chapter. The city of Samaria had been overtaken by an enemy's army and now was in famine. The people on the inside of the city were driven by their hunger, even to the point of becoming cannibals. The fear exasperated the whole situation. And Ben-Hadad's army threatened from the outside, and they were dying in droves on the inside. The great capital city of Israel. Ben-Hadad cut off all the communication from the outside world. And while this was going on outside the city, ostracized by the city, left to die by the city, were 4 lepers. No doubt these men had talked over the situation among themselves, and obviously it appeared pretty grim to them. If they went in, they were going to die, and if they stayed where they're at, they were going to die, and if they went to the Syrians, they could die. It was certain death for them if they stayed, if they went into the city, or the Syrian army could kill them. So the Bible says they asked an important question. And I read it in our text tonight. Why sit we here until we die? What these 4 lepers did at that point was bring themselves to understand some very important principles about not being satisfied. Number 1, how hungry were they? It's not how sick you are. That wasn't what got their attention. They were lepers. It wasn't how sick they were. It was how hungry they were. The lepers had been thrown out of the city for a reason. Their bodies were falling apart with the disease of leprosy. Lepers in those times were looked upon with disdain. They were failures. They were outcasts. They were mistakes. But I say, sometimes failure and frustration are nothing more than what ushers us into God's realm of greatest destiny and greatest potential. Because of their own misfortune, God was about to bless the city and save them from a certain death. In fact, the man who has the emptiest stomach is most likely to be the first person to get to the table. Someone hungry enough that says, no, I refuse to stay where I am. I'm going to die here, I'm going to die in there, or I'm going to put myself on the line and see what God will do. That's what happened with these 4 men. The men did not need to take some type of poison, or they didn't have to try to do something to harm their lives physically. They were starving to death. And there was a hunger inside of them that drove them to say, I cannot be satisfied where I am. And when you look at your life spiritually tonight, I wonder sometimes if we get so content with how things are in our lives that we learn just to, you know what, I'm doing okay. I'm just going to stay in the situation I'm in. I'm just going to coast along. I'm just going to try to make it to the next point. And down deep inside, spiritually, something is saying, I refuse to be satisfied with where I am. There's a hunger after the things of God. How hungry are you tonight? How hungry are you? Proverbs 23, verse 7, for as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Whatever you're thinking in your heart, that's where you're at tonight. If there's a hunger that's been churning in your spirit, guess what? You won't stop until you get fed by the presence of God, the Word of God. The hunger pressed them to find out what God had waiting on them. See, this is what the enemy does. He doesn't want you to know. He doesn't want your soul to be outside of the realm of being discontented. He wants you to stay on the same path that you're in and just say, you know what, I'm just gonna do it this way. The devil hates churches. He hates individuals that say, oh, there's a hunger down inside and absolutely nothing is going to stop me from getting to the table. Hallelujah, of God's presence. Nobody, no event, no thing, nothing that's happening, no circumstance is going to stop me from getting to where I want to be in God. A determination. When we look at the spiritual principle that is magnified here, it'll make you want to get up and do something about it. How hungry are you? How hungry are you? Second principle is how many. See, it was not how many lepers there were, but how united they were. It didn't matter that there was only 4 of them. Those 4 decided that together, hear me, together they would shake their world. It was just a minority of citizens of Samaria, but it was enough to break through into a revival like they had never seen before. They decided that they were not going to sit just in their misery and apathy any longer. No, together they said, we will either live or die. Together, we will either find food or die trying. Together, we will depend on God. Together, we will make the journey. The 4 of us, we're going to do it together. Together, we are going to seek out the Syrians. There was just 4 of them. But the unity of the 4 lepers said, together we're going to do it. You know what? We gotta quit crying about what we do not have and start focusing on what we do have and allow the power of God to unite us together. Oh, you might be in your own separate homes tonight, but that doesn't stop the unity of God's presence and the unity of God's Spirit that says it's not about how many is in this home. It's not about that. It's about the unity of how God is going to help you do it together. Together, we will give ourselves to prayer. Together, we will give ourselves to witness. Together, we will give ourselves to the study of His Word. Together, we will work for the kingdom. Together, we will give ourselves to the filling up of ourselves on a daily basis. Together, we will pray. Together, we will worship. Together, we will sing. Together, we will give Him adoration. Together, we will praise Him. It's the unity. It's not about how many. It's about doing it together. The principle of the unity of the 4 said, we're going to go into the Syrians' camp together. The next principle was how powerful. It's not how preposterous the method may be, but how powerful the God is. See, the lepers were looking for deliverance from the famine. And when God starts working in your behalf, it doesn't matter how difficult the dilemma is. What matters is how powerful your God is. That's what matters. They were only looking for a little food to eat, but instead, they got a whole lot more. They were just looking for a little sustenance, but they got deliverance from the famine. They were delivered from their poverty. They found new sets of clothes to accompany all that. Their method may have been a little wild, but their God was more important than their method. See, this is the way it always turns out with God. You get a whole lot more than what you went searching for. Oh, you were hungry, and God does more than just give you sustenance for the time. He allows your life to flourish. He allows your life and family to flourish. See, you're seeking healing, but you get mercy. You're seeking sight, but you get salvation. You're seeking health, but you receive power. That's what happens in the Word of God. You got individuals, they just wanted to be healed. They just wanted to have their sight. They just wanted to be brought back to health. And God gives mercy and salvation and power. That's how God works with you and I. Unanticipated blessing always comes outside of our methods. See, the lady, she just wanted to touch the hem of his garment. And as soon as she touched it, virtue flowed. And he knew someone touched him. He takes the individual and says, wash the mud out of your eyes. And when that happened, they saw. He said, just put water in the vessels, and it turned into wine. Just open up the fish's mouth. Oh, there was finance available. Just give him a drink first. You can see all kinds of examples through the Word of God. God's methods are way past yours and mine. Is it that you're hungry tonight? It doesn't matter about how many. It's about unity. It doesn't matter that your methods may be a little wild. It's about His power. His power. How blessed. What God blesses us with, we will take it to others. See, the lepers could have been very silent about what had been granted to them. They could have decided that since they had been thrown out of the city, that, you know what? Those people back in Samaria, they didn't like us too much. They put us outside the city walls, and we're just going to keep this to ourselves. We're not going to give anything back. We're just going to, they mistreated us, and we're just going to keep this blessing for ourselves. No, yet these men understood they didn't own anything. The whole company of the lepers did not have a dime before they got there. They were hungry. They were starving to death. This was way beyond their wildest dreams, what had happened. I mean, God allowed it that the Syrians thought that there was an army of chariots and horses, and they all fled. And 4 lepers come into the camp. They have enjoyed the feast, and they are filled up like they had not been in many years. They see that there are beggars who have nothing but abundance in front of them. Their hunger is now gone. Their desires have been met. They have tasted, they've handled for themselves the very blessings of God. And their response is, we just can't keep this to ourselves. What some don't often understand about deliverance is that it'll make you do something. Just like the old song, give me that old-time religion. It'll make you love everybody. It won't allow you to keep it for yourself. Oh, when you get hungry for God and He allows His blessing to flow upon your life and through your life, there's something about it that when the power of His Spirit, the Holy Ghost, is upon you, once you have been fed with the bread of heaven, once you have had a drink at the well of salvation, out of your belly flowing rivers of living water, once you tap into the very blessing of the new covenant of Jesus Christ, once your vessel is engulfed with the treasures of heaven, you can't help but tell somebody. You can't help but tell somebody, Oh, I don't know about you, but I can't be satisfied. I can't be satisfied. The old song goes, I won't be satisfied until His beauty I behold. I won't be satisfied until I walk those streets of gold. The end of that song says, until I clasp those nail-scarred hands, I won't be satisfied. Don't allow yourself to fall into a place of complacency. No matter where you are in God right now, let there be a hunger rise inside of you like never before. You've been hearing it service after service. You heard it this morning. My soul longs for you. The song we sung at the end of the service this morning. Nothing compares to you. I will wait on you. Something deep inside your spirit, right where you are. Would you just raise your hands right where you are right now and allow the presence of God? Oh God, I can't be satisfied. I can't be satisfied, God. There's a hunger deep inside of my spirit. Unify your people. God, it's your power we rely on. We've got to share it with somebody. I just can't be satisfied. I can't be satisfied. There's such a push in our world today. Just do what pleases you. Just do what pleases you. Just do what satisfies you. Just do whatever it takes to make you happy. That's not how these 4 lepers looked at it. Oh, they had a determination. The determination was, what's the sense of us just sitting here to die? We've got to do something about it. They weren't satisfied in any way. They unified their efforts. And the power of God was displayed. And they took the blessing of what God had done for them and went back to the city of Samaria and told them about it. It's really the process of every one of our lives. You have the opportunity tonight to reach out to the presence of God. Not just a taste. Not just enough to get you by. Not just enough to say, you know what, I'm okay. No, a hunger to learn His Word. A hunger to be in His presence. A hunger to seek the things of God like never before. Just can't be satisfied. Oh,